Hi folks, in this week's assignment you're going to be creating this form here, uh, and this form prompts the user to enter a task, a priority for that task, and then add it. And in the background, that task is then assigned randomly to owners. So you can add many tasks, and after you've added all these tasks you can display the tasks here. Let me just run this little video which I have available to you elsewhere. Okay, let's run it. Here I'm entering a task and adding it, and now I'm going to display all the tasks. I've had a whole bunch there, and that's all the program's doing. Um, let's put it back here again. So every time you create a task, it creates a custom JavaScript object, which this video is mostly about, and then it adds those objects to an array, and then here at the display all tasks you output that array to screen. So let's learn a bit more about how you actually create custom objects in JavaScript. And let's close this video and then go back to our JS bin to do this. Now, just by way of also pointing out some resources before we get into the meat of this, um, in learning module, the meat of the material is really in this 3 or 4 pages of text that I've excerpted from a textbook by Larry Ullman, and you can actually just read through Larry Ullman's textbook to get a sense about, to understand how to create custom objects, what they are. But I'm also going to show you on this video how to do it as well. Another key thing to keep in mind is JavaScript really is a language that's almost everything in it is an object. So for example, take a very common piece of JavaScript like document get element by ID, okay? This is an object, okay? And then of course this is a method of the object. And so you see this syntax or this type of grammar all used throughout JavaScript. And most of the time we're using the built-in objects in JavaScript, but we can also make our own custom objects, which we're going to do today. So the simplest way to create an object is to just declare a variable, say call it my object, and then 2 squiggles like that, that makes an object. And I can prove this to you by doing console.log and then type of my object like so. And if we clear it and run it again, we see that what's output is an object. And that of course is different than, say, if we were to define a string like var my name equals Luke, and then go do the same thing, console.log. And here, of course, we get a string as opposed to an object. Okay, so an empty object isn't, of course, much use, and this is just one way to define objects, by the way. I'm going to show you a new way in a bit, but this is called, so we usually give attributes to an object, so var, let's call it my car this time, equals, and then we can define a car object, and it has generally wheels, 4 wheels, and then speed, maybe 80 miles an hour, and that's our car. And now we can output the attributes of this car to the console as well. So my car, using dot notation, wheels, and now we get 4 wheels. And we can also output its speed, where speed is 80, right? And these, of course, don't just have to be integers or numbers. You can also use a string. So maybe the color of my car is red. So and run it all again for 80 red. So this type of notation is fine for creating individual objects, but what if you want to make a whole bunch of cars? That would just be tedious to keep doing this sort of thing over again. So you can actually use functions to create multiple car objects. So let's create a function that will do that. So we can make function, and we're going to call it vehicle. And then we're going to pass in as parameters the properties of our function. So in this case, wheels, speed, and color. And then the attributes of the function are of object are defined using this syntax. So this dot wheels equals wheels, and this dot speed equals speed. And these particular parameters are referring to the parameters that were passed in by the function. And then this dot color equals color. So what I mean by that is these, it's easy to confuse these two together, but of course this refers to this, like that. So now that we have this function, we can actually now create multiple cars really easily using this syntax. So var, well, let's make a Viper car, equals, we use the new syntax, vehicle, and then we pass in the particular properties of this car. Since a Viper is a particularly high type of quality car, well, I mean, it has four wheels just like any other, but it can go pretty fast. I'm not sure how fast, 200. And it's a flashy type of car, so let's make it a red car. And now we have a Viper, and we can output its properties easily. So by going Viper dot wheels yeah, so you get the idea. So we could also say make a I don't know, a Chevy, make it green. And a Chevy doesn't go as fast, so maybe make it 90 miles. My Chevy's speed. Now, in all of the above, we've created objects and a sort of a function that can create other objects. Um, but those objects, while they have properties like wheels, speed, and color, they don't actually have a method like document get element by ID. But we can now define a method. So let's call it this dot, and we'll just use a get method. So get speed equals function and we'll this particular car or object can actually talk. So we're just going to say speed talk, and my speed is and then you refer to this dot speed, and then you return speed talk. And now you can go Chevy and you get my speed is 90. So in this short video, I've shown you how to not only define objects with a very simple notation here, I've also showed you how you can use a function to create multiple objects, and then also how to also not only create properties for that object, but create methods for those objects as well using this syntax. Okay, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching.